Hey everybody, welcome back to Jeff Bull Central. I'm talking kind of softly right now. It's about 2:30 in the morning. I'm having trouble sleeping, and I have this video to produce, which you are currently watching. So I thought I'd, kill two birds with one stone. Might as well be schizophrenic and have sleep troubles and be making videos all at the same time. I wanted to talk in this mental health discussion video about consequences kind of becoming or yielding to healing. And this is in terms of mental health, healing from mental health issues, or in my case, because I'm schizoaffective, healing from psychosis. Really brief, because I try to recap a little bit here in every video. I suffered my first major psychosis about 7 years ago. I've been recovering pretty much ever since. And so one of the things I noticed, though, that it's hard to really get into the right words, but basically consequences for your behavior, consequences for the things that you do, the things that you say. In normal life situations, consequences don't necessarily feel too good. That's negative consequences, because positive consequences feel great, obviously, right? But when you're dealing with extreme mental dysfunction, I suppose is the word, but also just trauma, like on your end, like when you're recovering from something really traumatic that was emotionally traumatic, mentally traumatic, physically traumatic, or if you've been the victim of kind of your own mental processes, or if other people have, those consequences can be pretty radical. Those consequences aren't like, I said the wrong thing at the party and now Jenny won't talk to me. It's more like, well, I guess I'll use me as an example. I kind of gave this story in the last video, and I have given the story elsewhere, but again, it helps for context from my point of view. During my psychosis, I actually, there was a car accident where I injured my wife because I was delusional and I was hallucinating, and I thought she was going to hurt me, and she was hurt in by the vehicle. This is a really bad recap. I'm trying not to give too much information while at the same time giving enough for context. And she's fine now. We're fine now. That was 7 years ago. It was just a one-time freak accident event. Sorry not to be too vague, but the point is that there were consequences for me, okay? Even though I didn't mean to do it, even though it was the last thing I ever would have done under normal circumstances. Carrie, my wife, she's known me since 2005. So we've almost known each other 20 years now, and I'm only 39 years old. So we met when I was 21 years old. She was 23, I believe. So, she kind of took a lot of crap from people for staying with me after that accident. Those were consequences that she had to bear. And, I ended up, as I said last time, I ended up in jail for a couple nights after that. And after that, I ended up in a psych ward for a couple weeks, because that was man, that's just where the authorities put me, and maybe that's where I really needed to be at that time. I don't begrudge that at all, because it was a little dangerous. I was dangerous, but those consequences, there were further legal knock-on consequences. I had to face judgment. I had to go into court. I had to do community service. I had to pay court fees. I had to deal with the social consequences of all that. I lost a lot of friends from that time in my life, who I had just made and who were very promising friends. I really liked these people, and they're gone now for various reasons. So, there's legal consequences, social consequences, familial consequences. There's people in my family who don't look at me the same and probably never will, even though it was almost a decade ago that all of this happened. And so all of that sucks. Yeah, like pretty blatantly not so great. But what I really want to talk about is how you can kind of transform or transmute that suffering, as much as it was on my end, because obviously my wife suffered more physically, and she had her consequences to face. But just speaking for myself, if I had not had consequences for my actions that were so severe, so humbling, because I'm not a violent person. I'm not a particularly angry or aggressive person. Facing those consequences were enough for me. But what I want to say is because I had such a hard stop. I had such a brick wall that I hit, that I couldn't help but reflect, even though I was in the midst of psychosis still. And frankly, the hallucinations were still really bad. The voices were still really bad. If I had not had those consequences, I wouldn't be where I am now, feeling better, I think. Because those consequences kept me honest. Those consequences kept me from slipping back into like a malaise, or just apathy, or just not really caring what happens to me one way or another, because I care what happens to the people around me. Even when I'm in the midst of something really gripping and kind of depressing or crazy or just dysfunctional, I still don't want the people around me to hurt. You know what I mean? And those are those consequences. I hurt my wife. That's a pretty nasty consequence. And so I was with her while she was recovering. I was helping her mend from that auto accident. That was a consequence. That helped me heal, because I realized I had to get better for her. You know what I mean? And then we had a situation just a couple months ago, I don't mind admitting, where I was getting stubborn about taking my medication. Now, I understand that advocating for everybody to take psychiatric medication for mental illness is kind of, I think it's kind of a little misguided, because I think that I have met enough of you. I've met enough people with similar diagnoses to know that sometimes it's tough for people. It kind of, for some people, it changes their mental framework too much. They don't like it. It changes the way they think and feel. They feel slower. They feel less like themselves. For me, the medication works pretty good. I just got stubborn about not taking it, and that's me. It works good for me. And so I noticed I started slipping. I started having more bad days than good, more distressing days than happy days, or just, regular, normal days. And so my wife, again, she put her foot down. And God bless her for doing that, because she was like, look, if you don't take these pills right now, we're going to have another incident like we had, maybe, right? And so she basically said, if you don't take these pills, I'm going to have to ask you to go elsewhere for a while, like go to your mom's, because I can't deal with it 24/7. And that's kind of, that's kind of her story. And I might let you, we were thinking of having her tell stories about that, or talk about stuff like that. The responsibility of taking care of someone with serious mental illness, especially a spouse. But if she hadn't done that for me, I wouldn't have started taking my pills again. I wouldn't be feeling better today. So consequences are good, especially once we face them and they're behind us and they don't really trouble us as much anymore. But consequences, I should say, can be good. No, I'm going to say that. I think they are good, as long as they don't send us even further into the brink. You need to see this illness is not your fault necessarily, okay? It's something that's happened to you. I know I'm just speaking for me. It's something that happened to me. I didn't look for it. I wasn't asking for it. Didn't want it. It happened to me, right? It's just part of my life now. But I don't I don't have a choice about that, but I do have a choice about um, uh, refusing to get some kind of help. And I don't really care what that help is as long as it's viable. After my last video, there were a lot of discussion. There was some discussion in the comment section about spirituality, religiosity, how some people are very firmly in the group, in the belief that mental illness, especially things like schizophrenia, is a spiritual disorder, or is a spiritual dysfunction. Please, if I'm not kind of getting that point of view right, please correct me. But that the kind of help you can find in psychiatry and psychiatric drugs and stuff like that, hospitals, health clinic, mental health clinics, psych wards, stuff like that, is limited. I don't really fall into that camp. I actually fall into the camp that says that mental health is actually kind of a byproduct of physicality, as well as what you might call spiritual influence, or your soul, or just spiritual influence, right? I get that conversation, and I kind of feel that sometimes it's maybe a both thing. That's my opinion. I don't go there with that because in my view of things, and again, please forgive me, this is just me talking. I have no dog in this fight. I'm just kind of explaining where I come from for future reference or for past reference. I feel like if on this channel, in these videos, I don't provide you with the basic physical, worldly approach to at least trying to get someone who's not on the level at the moment, who's a little spirally, who's a little out of control, getting that person into psychiatric help, I believe, is probably the most helpful thing for them at that moment. And that's kind of what I was talking to at earlier. Now, if you're a more spiritual than materialist type person, you might say, well, get him to a priest, or get him to, I don't know, a Reiki session. I really don't know. I don't know, but or a shaman or something. I don't know. I don't disagree with that. The priest thing, the spiritual thing, the trying to get them the help they need on that level. I just think that maybe it's more practical, especially if someone is having a lot of distress, to get them something like immediate psychiatric attention, because I think it's a compound thing. I think it's more complex than that. So that was kind of a side tangent. But even so, even if you're not interested in psychiatric help, if you think it's all bogus, and again, I don't hold anything against that at all. Like, it's to each their own. I just, in my opinion, in my experience, it is a more practical thing to attack. If someone is still doing things, causing things, experiencing things, feeling things, thinking things, perceiving things, hurting people, hurting themselves, kind of all that umbrella of extreme dysfunction and extreme issues, even then, consequences can lead to healing. Even if you're not interested in getting help on a practical psychiatric level, consequences can still lead to healing. You can still do something about it. Even if it's like self-knowledge, for God's sakes, read a book about it. Search on YouTube or Google it, what you might have in ways to fix it, handle it, mitigate it, help it. Let those consequences guide you, no matter what your modality of healing is. Let those consequences guide you. I just want people to be able to heal, to get better. I don't want someone to keep spiraling when there is so much information and so much help available. And yeah, some of that is on the spiritual zone. But again, if not for having hurt my wife, been in jail, been in a psych ward, faced legal consequences, lost my friends, faced marital issues because I'm not taking care of myself, all those things line up for me wanting to do better, because I don't want to hurt people. I'm a good guy. I don't want to hurt people. That's basically what it is. So I hope this video really expressed what I'm trying to get at. I think it's this: if you're in the midst of consequences right now, it's a long haul, it's probably painful, and it's hard to think of it as a beneficial thing when you're in the middle of it. Trust me, I get that. But if you can, just consider the possibility that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you may just look back on this time and say, you know, if not for that, I wouldn't be better. And it's kind of a shame that's how human beings work. But a lot of the time, negative reinforcement is just as potent and efficacious as positive reinforcement. And reality, this world, God's world, if you want to take it back to spirit, is full of consequences and full of reinforcements. It's the way we learn, and maybe we're here to learn. Yeah. So don't ever think of these consequential things, these things that you're facing because you got out of control with your schizophrenia or with your bipolar or whatever, your depression, whatever it is. You said some things, even if it's minor, you said some things you didn't mean to say. When someone comes back at you and says, that hurt my feelings, you need to not ever say that stuff ever again. You can, if you so choose, or if you have the forethought, say, okay, well, that was something I needed. That hurt. That was a sock in the gut. I didn't like it, but now I know that I have to control it better. Now I know that I maybe am a little too weak myself to handle this on my own. And that's really what I'm talking about with getting psychiatric help. It's just the most practical thing. I don't disagree with the spiritual aspect of all this necessarily. I probably do in specifics, but that's all it is. It's just the most practical thing that you can do right now if you're having psychotic symptoms, for instance, because that's what I was speaking to. So, two things that I kind of covered in this video, but kind of related. Kind of doesn't matter to me what your modality of healing is, but if you need help, get help. And if you don't like, or if you're feeling abused by life because you've got this illness and it's not very well understood by people, and it just keeps causing bad things to happen, bad situations, just calm down. Think about it, trust, if you can, and realize that healing is never really far beyond. If you embrace that healing, it's even better. So it works even better in my experience. Okay. I can hear the comments coming because I feel like I might have misplaced a word or concept here. Mush-mouthed, 2:30 in the morning. Probably not super smart. But honestly, it comes from my heart. I'm not looking to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or lead people astray. That's not my intention. I just want to help. So please comment. I'm not even saying don't comment. Please comment. Say what's on your mind. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm right. Tell me your story. Tell me anything you want. Like this video if you did like it. Subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. We do one of these mental health videos every week and a half or so. That's been our pace lately. We also do video game videos and music here on Jeff Bull Central. Check it out if you want. That's all I got to say. Be well, everybody. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Check it out next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
School when I was 9, told me she had feelings, she had lies.